I recommend this method to you. It's called the train method. It's tune and tremolo, relief, action, intonation and noodle. So what you want to first of all do is get your guitar up and tuned. So I just go for standard pitch, don't go for anything fancy for this process. I want to make sure if you've got new strings that these are not going to give you any grief and stay in tune for this whole process. So I would get it up to tune and then just pull on the strings a little bit like that and do that 3 or 4 times on every single string, then you'll be good to go. Now if you were a beginner or a seasoned amateur, I strongly suggest that you just have the tremolo flat to the body, because that's going to just make things a lot easier all the way through this process and a lot easier to play, frankly. The way you do that is you just go into the back and you tighten or loosen the screws until you're there. If this is pulling off the back, just loosen up your strings, tighten the screws at the back and get it so that eventually this is flat. You don't want it super, super tight where it's really locked down, just enough so that it's flat to the body, but you can still push down on this and you can pitch bend with it. If you're a more seasoned player or you want just a bit more flexibility in your playing, you enjoy having a floating tremolo, my method of doing it is to first of all eyeball this and then use your B string as a reference point, and you want to be able to pull back on the tremolo until you get to a C sharp, which is a whole tone. Other people go for a minor third, you can go for that too, and you'll just need to keep on tweaking until you get there. I did another video and I just did it by feel because I was in that mood that day and it was good fun. But I strongly suggest if you want to be as accurate as possible, that's what you do and you'll be there. Happy days. So the next thing to do is your neck relief. Capo, first fret, you put that there. Where the neck meets the body, you push down. So on this guitar, it's the 18th fret. And what you're essentially doing is making this string your straight edge. So you don't need to buy any specialist tools for this. And then what you want to do is get your credit card. I've got a few chopped up here. And you slide this in at the 8th or the 9th fret. And if it goes in nicely and there isn't too much of a gap, then you're there. That's your neck relief sorted. You can also use a feeler gauge and you want it on the 0.01 inch setting or 0.25 millimeter setting. And you slide that in at the 8th or 9th fret, and if that's going in nicely, you're there. Now, if the strings are really close to the body or they're really far away, you need to sort that out, because that's going to cause you problems again in terms of your playing. You want the neck to be basically straight, so you don't get any fret buzz. You don't have a struggle sort of pushing down the strings or any of that stuff. You just want it as simple as possible to play. So the way you do that is you get your Allen key. So you need to get the right Allen key and just test a few until you get there. And you put it in to the truss rod at the headstock end of the guitar. Now the important part of this is that you are down at the headstock end looking down towards the body. That's the most important thing for everything I'm about to say. So if you turn it left, so you turn it this way, left, okay? That's lefty loosey, right, righty tighty, okay? So lefty loosey, what that does, turning further the neck is going to go and bow downwards away from the string. This is the string, this is your neck. Imagine this is the body end, if you like. I'll draw that in, really terrible body. That's the body, if you like, that end. And that's your headstock with all your strings attached this end. And essentially that's what it will do. It will give you that shape the more and more you turn it left. So essentially it will make the strings harder to push down, if you like. So you need to get it into about the right sort of place so that it's comfortable and you're well adjusted, as it were. So you do that all from this end of the headstock, and you do left to loosen, right to tighten. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward and clear. If it's not, please do say in the comments. I know that does cause a lot of confusion. I've seen lots of comments in various places about that causing confusion. It's not that difficult, but I think it's all about the orientation you start from. As long as you start from the headstock looking down, you're going to have a very easy time in making those adjustments. Okay, so that's your neck relief. Now the action is the next part of this. What you want to do, just take your capo off. Obviously take your Allen key out. Apologies, I'm doing this all one-handed. But what you basically do with your action, now you've adjusted this part of the guitar, you don't need to touch that anymore. For your action, all you're going to be touching are the saddles on your bridge. And you can see it's got tiny, tiny little screws there. And you're going to have to adjust those up and down to get your action correct. Now, to measure your action, you want to grab your credit cards again. Now, in this case, 3 credit cards is about the right sort of height you want. And you want to slide those in at the 12th fret. So if they fit in nicely, then again, your action is correct, or that should be about right. If you have the right equipment, you want to be going for 6/64 of an inch, okay? And this is a gizmo that you can just get off of Amazon. What you will need to do is adjust these up and down until you get there. Okay, so the other thing to bear in mind, with a Strat style guitar, the neck does have a radius to it. This is going to be usually on a Strat, it's about 9.5 inches, give or take. On anything like an Ibanez, you could be talking 12 to 16 inches, whatever, that kind of thing. And Les Paul is normally about 12. So, on a Strat style guitar, what you would normally do is set up the low E and the high E and get your action sorted on those, okay? Then you would get something called a radius gauge, and you'd pull that up against here, and you'd essentially want to get the rest of the strings going in against that radius gauge to give you the correct heights all against the fretboard. Now, most people don't necessarily have that radius gauge, so the easiest way is just to set them up so there's a slight curvature as you go across the bridge saddles. Otherwise, do go and get yourself a radius gauge. You can see I haven't actually set this one up yet. This one is one I'm in process of doing. But you can just eyeball it if you need to, and that will get you there. The next thing is your intonation. So your intonation basically means across the fretboard are all your strings in tune. Maybe you play a chord, or if you go up here and start doing some fancy fast fretwork or what have you, is your guitar staying in tune? And when you press down, do you say here, do you get an E in the same way that you get an E open? Oftentimes you'll find that that's not the case. So what you'll need to do is essentially tune up your guitar, make sure it's at pitch, and then you'll come down here and you'll adjust these screws either forwards or backwards. Now, what you would do in order to achieve that, you play, for example, you play your open string. So choose any of your open strings. You start off with your low E string, hold it down there, and then basically play that note. And you want to make sure that you're still getting an E. If you're flat, for example, you're going to have to turn the screw, and essentially what you're going to be doing is shortening this string, essentially. You want to make sure that your saddle moves forward this way, okay, when you turn the screw. Now, if it's sharp, you want to move the saddle backwards, and that will lengthen the string, okay? So that's your intonation sorted. And the next thing, really, is then you can start to have a bit of a play on it. Have a bit of a noodle. That's the most important stage, obviously noodling. And have fun with your guitar, and then just tweak all those parameters slightly here and there until you've got the instrument playing as you want to. I hope that was useful, and see you in the next one.